Tom Goslowski here with you on 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com. And joining me, previewing UFC 196 this weekend. You can follow him on Twitter. He'll be covering the fights for Fox Sports at Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani joins us. And Ariel, the mix-up, the almost brawl just moments ago between Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, you were live tweeting during that. What almost happened? We almost got a preview of the fight 48 hours before it happened.
Yeah, thank you for having me on again, Tom. They squared off at the MGM Grand, the David Copperfield Theater, and Nate Diaz put his fist up against Conor McGregor's face, and Conor either slapped or punched it away. Either way, he did it with a good amount of force, and then everyone got on the stage, from Jake Shields to some of Nate Diaz's other teammates to Ido Portal, Conor's movement coach, Artem Lobov. I mean, everyone was up there. But credit to the security, the police officers, the UFC staff. They did a very good job of not allowing this thing to escalate. It was almost like a football drill where they all picked a man and blocked each one of them. But it was a pretty intense scene, and they were yelling things at each other. It could have gotten a lot worse. So I think it just reached the perfect point for the UFC, and tomorrow at the weigh-ins should be pretty interesting.
You've interviewed Conor McGregor before. Is this really how he is? Is this him just trying to promote a fight, or is he like this even away, whether it be fight nights or fight weeks?
He's a very intense individual. There's no doubt about that. He's obsessed. He's compared himself to Vincent van Gogh, who was obsessed with his craft to the point where he, cut off his ear. And Conor doesn't think about anything other than fighting. And one sometimes overlooked aspect of Conor McGregor's personality is just how big of a student of the game he is. He consumes everything. He knows everything. He knows everything that's written about him, said about him, reads everything, knows everything about his opponent. He's very smart when it comes to that. He really does do his research. So no, this is he's not playing a character. People like to ask him about that, or like to say that he is playing a character. He really isn't. He's an intense guy, and he really does put it out there.
He likes to use that psychological warfare against his opponents going into the fight, but when they actually step into the octagon, what can Nate Diaz bring that may give McGregor trouble?
Well, Diaz, his strengths are, there's no secret there. He's a solid boxer. He's got a long reach. He's tough to finish. He's good off his back. He's got good, submissions. Obviously, black belt in jiu-jitsu. The big question is, what kind of shape is he in? Did he have enough time to prepare? He only got the call 11 days out. What kind of shape was he in beforehand? How confident is he? How is he going to react to Conor flipping him off, saying things to him during the fight? It's usually the Diaz brothers who do that sort of thing. So, important to note that when Nate moved up to 170 for a brief period around 5 years ago, and this fight is being contested at 170 pounds, he did not have a very successful run there. Now he's fighting a guy who's also coming up from 145. So how does that equal out? So it's interesting, and it's also interesting to note that this fight, of course, was originally supposed to be Rafael dos Anjos versus Conor, a champion versus champion, and it kind of feels like there's more buzz surrounding a fight that, really has no belts or anything at stake other than, bragging rights and pride. So it's funny how that works sometimes.
Live from Las Vegas, he's covering UFC 196 for Fox Sports. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani joins us. And Conor McGregor's one of the faces of the UFC. Also one of the most popular fighters in the UFC is Ronda Rousey. She lost her belt months ago to Holly Holm. Holly Holm is on this card taking on Miesha Tate. Doesn't the UFC almost need Holly Holm to beat Miesha Tate so we get to see that rematch of Holm versus Ronda 2 for the title?
I kind of feel like they can't go wrong in this scenario for a couple of reasons. Because, first, Ronda has this history with Miesha Tate. Miesha lost to her twice. So this time, let's say Miesha Tate wins. She's champion. It's a whole new layer to the storyline. And, quite frankly, it's probably a blessing in disguise for Ronda Rousey. And to be honest, I think that there's a good chance that Ronda doesn't come back. Basically, there's a good chance that the winner of this fight fights before Ronda fights again. So I don't necessarily think she's coming back right away. And the UFC has a obvious great fight with Holly Ronda if it happens anytime soon. And I think the third fight with Misha, if she's the champion, is very sellable as well. So they can't really go wrong either way, in my opinion.
So we're not sure when Ronda's going to come back, but we do know when another popular fighter, Jon Jones, is going to step back in the octagon next month versus Daniel Cormier. You had a chance exclusively to talk to Jon Jones in November. What did you take away from that conversation with him?
I think the biggest thing I took away from it was this is a guy who recognizes that he messed up, recognizes that he's very lucky to have gotten away in the shape that he did, that no one was seriously injured, nothing worse happened that early morning, evening in April of last year. Definitely wants to get his belt back. His focus is in the best shape of his life. He usually is out of shape outside of fight camp. That's not the case this time around. I will say that I was a little disappointed with I don't know what to call it, when he was pulled over recently for driving a 75 and a 35. I mean, if I'm without a license, without a registration, without a proof of insurance, I mean, if I'm just surprised that he's putting himself in that position, and I was disappointed to see that. And I don't want to make too big of a deal of it, but you got lucky. Stop at every stop sign, drive below the speed limit, have all your documentation on you. Don't put yourself in that position. Jon Jones is the greatest fighter to have ever lived, in my opinion, and his resume speaks for himself, and there's so much more that he could do. He's not even 30 yet. Why cut it all short? So just be careful, think twice, and I'd like to see him, use better judgment when it comes to that.
Right, poor judgment in that decision by Jon Jones to do that. Originally, this fight, the UFC had it scheduled for Madison Square Garden. Folks here in New York, especially here in the capital of New York, Albany, thought maybe we're getting closer to seeing mixed martial arts legalized here in New York. Ariel, please tell me, I have to ask it for all our UFC insiders, are we here in New York by the end of the year finally going to get MMA legalized and we can watch a fight hopefully at Madison Square Garden?
Madison Square Garden, the Barclays Center, the Carrier Dome.
Yeah, that's right. You and I are rooting for the Carrier Dome for sure.
Yes, I want to see all of that. New York is way too unpredictable. I have no idea what's going on. It's a sad state of affairs. It should happen. They're confident. I always thought April was too soon. Let's see what happens. I mean, the deadline is June, so we've got 3.5 months or so left. It's mid-June. And if so, then maybe November, maybe it's for Ronda's return. Who the heck knows? New York is so darn unpredictable, but I really hope that it happens because this is dragged on way too long, and it's becoming comical at this point. I mean, maybe not for the UFC. It's very frustrating, but New York has been very disappointing on that front, and I think it would be great. There are people outside of New York that don't really get why this is such a big deal. To be legitimized, to be holding events in the world's most famous arena, despite the fact that my beloved Knicks do their best to disgrace that arena on a nightly basis. It's a big feather in the UFC's cap, and I hope it gets done this year.
He's covered UFC 196 for Fox Sports this weekend. Follow him on Twitter at Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani joining us on the phone lines here. And we went about 8 minutes in our conversation. Then we finally brought up Syracuse. I'm pretty proud of ourselves. We could have had this whole interview about our beloved Orange. And I have to ask you this. Now, you had joined another one of my favorite people for Fox Sports, one of your colleagues, Katie Nolan, and you joined her podcast. And you mentioned a rift between a former Syracuse football wide receiver and a 1990s R&B band. Please explain this.
You didn't know about this?
I did not know about this until you brought this up on her podcast.
Well, I don't know if it's true. I've been told that it's more of an old wives' tale. But, the Belle Biv DeVoe song, Miss Her, Kiss Her, Love Her, that whole thing. Michael Bivins went to Syracuse, and what I was always told was that the song goes, the Poison song, Belle Biv DeVoe, BBD, Miss Her, Kiss Her, Love Her, Rob Moore, you're dead. Rob Moore, famous wide receiver for the Orange back in the day, played for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL. Miss her, kiss her, love her, Rob Moore, you're dead. That girl is poison. Go back, listen to it.
I have it pulled up right now, so let's listen together if you can hear this. I got it pulled up right now.
Kiss her, love her. Rob Moore, you're dead. That girl.
Now, wait a second. That sounds like it right there. A little Rob Moore, you're dead. Let's hear it one more time.
Do it again. Do it again.
Rob Moore, you're dead.
I mean, that's blatant. I've never heard that, and that definitely sounds like Rob Moore, you're dead. We're going to get a Twitter poll going on this later on tomorrow.
And by the way, the reason for that is the story is that Rob Moore stole his girlfriend. Look it up. Google it. There's a whole bunch of theories. But to me, it sounds like Rob Moore, you're dead. I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm officially on the bandwagon that Rob Moore and Belvin DeVoe have a beef, and you've discovered it. Katie Nolan, I, and all the great people who listen to the podcast know that as well. Ariel Helwani. Ariel, I'm going to let you go. I'm sure we could talk longer. You got so much going on. Who knows what McGregor and Diaz and everyone else is up to on this card. We're going to catch up again soon. Hopefully we catch up at a New York legalized fight soon and can get sick cage side together. But until then, man, we'll catch up. Take care and keep up the great work this weekend.
Always a pleasure.